The Walmart FLW Tour Open on Lake Guntersville will likely go down in history as an event that will reshape the sport of bass fishing for months to come. Much like revolutionary baits such as the Cinco, chatterbait, or the Big Spoon, the Alabama rig has now asserted itself as the new must-have piece of fishing tackle. Not only did tournament winner Paul Elias break the 100-pound mark with a 4-day total of 102 pounds 8 ounces with the Alabama rig, other top pros used the unique presentation to weigh in multiple 20-pound-plus limits, a feat few thought was possible just 4 days ago. In the coming months, much will be learned about this new miracle bass rig, but for now, all we can do is listen to the words of those who experience the magic firsthand. Did you start throwing the Alabama rig?
About noon on the first day of practice.
What weights, bodies, heads did you use on this rig this week?
I used anywhere from 3/8 to 3/4.
Line you were using?
I was using Ultra Cast. Wait a minute, I got to remember the name of it. Ultra Cast Floor Braid, 65-pound test.
Rod?
I was using a Pinnacle heavy flipping 7-foot 11-inch Perfector rod.
Reel?
A Pinnacle Optimus 6.4 gear retrieve reel.
The areas that you were throwing this at, obviously rip wrap, bridge columns, but it looked like, give me the key depth.
Well, actually there wasn't really a key depth, but it seemed like most of the bigger fish came from over 20 to 28 feet of water. And they, sometimes you'd have to reel it fast. Sometimes I'd let it go all the way to bottom and then reel it fast. Sometimes I'd have to just creep it, let it just work its way deeper and deeper as I kind of came off the shallower water. It really varied. I was counting it down, and I was, sometimes I'd count to 3, sometimes I'd count to 6, sometimes I'd count to 10. And it just, I was just doing all kinds of different things. But once they really started biting, I remembered my countdown, and I did it consistently, and it seemed to work a lot better. The one thing that I haven't told you that, and they're not a sponsor of mine, but I've run that Hydrowave all week, and it is really, I really think that it was helping me, and I changed tones on it a lot today, and it was. They got it on camera. I'd go like 30 or 45 minutes without a bite. I'd change tones on that thing, and then within 5 minutes I'd catch one. So I don't know the science behind it, but I do know, I really believe it works.
One last question. What's the most amazing thing you've seen with this Alabama rig this week?
How consistently it catches quality fish, and how you can fish it so many different depths. That's the most important thing. The size weights you're putting on it and your speed of retrieve are crucial with it.
All right, we're here with Andy Poss, the guy that has started this craze with the Alabama rig. Andy, I have to know, how long has this rig been out?
The 1st of July as far as marketing. I've been kind of getting it to what it is today for about 14 months.
Okay.
And it's went from just a slow trickle to a blaze in just a matter of a couple of days, and a lot of it's due to Paul and just really the right time for the way it's designed in the right lake, and the right fisherman got it, and it's kind of showed true colors.
Is this something you designed on your own out there fishing?
Yes, it is, just from just trial and error, and kind of just letting the fish dictate. The more I tinker with it, one way or the other, and just throw it a lot and just stay with it, and and it is what it is today. And I mean, it's really unique, and but it's it's fishing. It's like a lot of things. You're gonna have to throw it to really find fish. Not every fish wants it, but if you find the right bunch, you'll do real well quick.
How did you come up with this idea?
Some from watching TV and just getting a little idea here, and some from just taking that idea and putting it with another, and just one thing led to another, and over the course of these months, it's the finished product is what it is today, and it worked real well here.
Give me any idea, number of hits, number of orders, anything in the last 4 days of how your life has changed with this.
We went from a slow trickle of, say, 5 to 10 orders some weeks to 20 orders some weeks to now where I'm going to say 2 to 3 weeks out without you can't even get one. So it's unbelievable. It really is. And it's exciting. And we're a little overwhelmed, but it's in a good way.
Is it a handmade? Do you hand make those?
Yeah, everything from the paint job to the wire bending, twisting, every aspect of it is handmade.
Sounds like you're going to be a busy man for the next few weeks.
I don't know if my hands can handle it.
I caught every fish I weighed in on. I threw the Alabama rig from day one, and I would say until today, 85% of my fish came off of one spot with it, but they were all close in the park area. I was throwing I think I was throwing something different than everybody else, and I think I was fishing it different than everybody else. I was fishing it deep, on the bottom, slow rolling it like you would have a spinner bait.
How deep?
15 to 25 feet, keying on some ledges and stumps, and there were big fish there. There was one sweet spot on that flat on that ledge, and I caught probably 30 pounds. I weighed in off that one 10-foot square area. But today I caught my biggest fish off of it, but it wasn't quite as big as the rest of them, but, we'll take it. I don't really know what else to say. It was just a phenomenal tournament for me, and it's just amazing, I guess.
In your mind, what is the most amazing thing about that Alabama rig?
Today it wasn't starting out pretty. And I made a move. And when I went to the clear water, the shallow water, the 8 or 9 feet of water, I had a different one tied on, some different baits. And what amazed me is I don't mean I got bites. I mean if I wouldn't have held on to that rod, it would have been out of the boat just like that. I mean, it was just, my cameraman said I startled him one time. I set the hook so hard. I said, well, I was just hanging on.
Right. Just the ferocity of which they hit that day.
That's right. They were ripping it, and that's all I can say. It's awesome.
Just first of all, what day of this tournament did you start throwing that crazy Alabama rig?
It was the third day I started doing it. Actually, Paul gave me one on the third night. I didn't know where I was going to get one. I had to find one, and Paul gave me one. And I started throwing it and started figuring it out on the third day, as I went, and really got dialed in late in the day yesterday on the third day.
What did you put on your Alabama rig? Everybody's got a little something different swim baits, different weighted heads. What was your choice?
I had Buckeye half-ounce swim bait heads. They have a really, really good 5/0 hook, good strong hook, which you needed it for that rig. And on the third day, I had a couple of bags of Big Bite cane thumpers. It's like a 5-inch swim bait that Big Bite makes, and I caught a lot of fish on it. I ran out of those. I didn't bring enough. I didn't know I was going to be doing that, and then I just scrounged up a bunch of different kind of swim baits that I could just find laying here and there, and caught them on about everything I put on it.
When you put your baits, no matter which one it was on there, did you make them all the same, or did you vary what was on there?
At one point today, earlier I was throwing all the same size baits, but at one point today I dug around in my tackle box, and I had I think it's called an Osprey swim bait. It's as big as a tennis shoe. Well, I stuck it on the middle, and I caught a couple of fish on that too, but it was like a 12-inch swim bait with a bunch of 5-inch swim baits around it. It was pretty hilarious.
It's kind of part of the fun. You can kind of be creative and mix and match and put different stuff.
That's right.
What about your line, rod, and reel for that setup?
Luckily, I brought some 8-foot double extra heavy carrot stick flipping sticks, and that was a perfect rod for that. If I had to recommend a rod for the Alabama rig, it'd be that rod. And I was throwing it on a 6-4-1 Abu Garcia Revo Premier. I had 60-pound Sunline FX2 braid. Let's see, that's about it. Okay. Yeah, that was the rig.
What kind of areas and depth were you targeting with that?
On the third day, I found some fish in a pocket that was protected from that big north wind that we were having early on in the tournament, and there was some hydrilla in there, and a few fish were schooling. Well, I caught them about 8 foot deep out in front of that grass. Well, when I started looking around for more fish yesterday, I found some fish out about 25 to 30 foot deep, and that's how I caught them today. Slow rolling it, my bait was probably 10 foot off the bottom, and then the fish were coming up from 25 and 30 foot to get it. Pretty amazing. Usually I don't look for fish like that because they're really hard to catch, but that bait will catch those suspended fish.
One last thing, after this week, what's the most amazing thing about that Alabama rig that you've seen this week?
The bites, they were crushing it. You know, I'm glad that I had those Buckeye swim bait heads because that hook is so stout. If I hadn't had that, you know, I probably would have lost a lot of fish, but you know, because you would have straightened out the hook. Even the 3-pounders were hitting it so hard, it was like your hands were getting electrocuted. It was a cool deal.
What size heads and weight? Or heads
today, I had been throwing the first couple of days. I had been throwing a smaller swim bait. It's like a little dipper. It's a little dipper knockoff made by Jack's Baits out of North Carolina, I believe, and 3.5 inches or so, maybe 4. I don't think it's quite 4. However big a small, you know, that little dipper is. And I would use 2/4 ounce heads on the bottom 2 arms, and then 1/8 on the rest of them. And it's easy to fish, and it's pretty lightweight. You can cast it a long ways, and it's not that much work. But I wanted to rig up another one, you know, with a little bit heavier duty. I did catch my 7-pounder yesterday, that third day, on that smaller rig, but I still wanted something bigger. And so today I rigged them up with that J-wheel head, the Buckeye J-wheel swim bait head, which is, I mean, that's the only one I'm ever going to throw on it anymore. I mean, that's the head I've been using, you know, for skipping swim baits under docks and just fishing a single swim bait in grass or whatever. It's just got such a big, good hook in it. The head has a really cool design because it's got a big flat area where your swim bait butts up to the head. Just creates a lot of surface area to glue, which I always glue them. And you can just fish. I mean, you can fish it literally all day long. I fished the same one today all day and never had any of them pull off. I mean, that head really worked well on it today. And I would throw 3/4 ounce heads and 2 3/8 on those swim baits because they were a little bit bigger, 4.8 inches and then 5.8 inches. So, you know, I'd have 3 little ones and 2 big ones.
What's the most amazing thing you saw this week with that? I mean, what's the most amazing thing about the Alabama rig?
I think it's one of those things that they've not seen it. There's so much there, you know, there's so much water displacement. I think all their focus goes to those baits. They don't see that hardware, they don't see the wire because there's so much going on, and it's just, to them, it's got to be real because it's so different. You know, it's not like a normal swim bait where you see them following and they're checking it out. Right. This thing, they see it and they smoke it, you know, and I think that's evidenced by the bites. The bites are so vicious and so hard, there's not a shadow of doubt in that fish's head that he's going after, you know, a school of bait. And I mean, it's real, and he's going to hit it as hard as he can. And I caught another one again today that had 2 in his mouth, you know, so they're coming up there and they're engulfing it. I mean, it's just, they think it's real. I mean, I really do.
What day of the tournament did you start throwing the Alabama rig?
I started throwing it the 3rd day like an idiot.
Okay. And give me some idea of what you were throwing on the rig. What kind of swim baits, what kind of heads, the weight of the heads?
I was throwing 2 5.5-inch shadowliciouses and 3 4.5-inch ones, and throwing 3/8 ounce heads in the big ones and 1/4 ounce heads in the small ones.
Okay. So you had them offset.
Yeah.
You had different sizes for a different look.
Yeah, and it didn't seem like the fish preferred one size over the other. I mean, you would catch one on a little one, and then the next cast you'd catch one on the 5-inch swim bait. It didn't seem like they had a preference.
Give me an idea of kind of the size line you were using.
I was throwing 25-pound Berkeley trilene fluorocarbon, 100% fluorocarbon.
The rod and the reel you use for that technique?
I was throwing the Revo STX and the 8-foot Demiki flipping stick.
And what kind of areas were you throwing in? Grass, rock, flats?
My main area was in a creek. It was a grass flat that had a little drain coming out, and that's where I caught them real good every day early. The first couple days I caught them on a crankbait, and then yesterday and today I caught them in there on the Alabama rig.
After you've seen the last 2 days using the Alabama rig, what's the most amazing thing about it that you've experienced in terms of what it does or anything like that?
The most amazing thing I experienced with it was I caught 2 4-pounders on it and they didn't help me.
That was today?
That was today.
Wow, at the same time?
At the same time, 2 4-pounders couldn't cull nothing.